safest border in U.S. history. It was the best ever, and they have turned it into the worst border disaster. I don't think anywhere in the world, you can go to a third world country, I don't think you'd see anything like it in the world, no matter who it is. There's never been a border like this anywhere. People just coming in by the millions. And don't believe when you hear 1 million, 2 million, it'll be 10 or 15 million by the time that ends. And we're talking about it a short period of time. They're coming over at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We have no idea who the hell they are, where they're coming from.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, there have been over 1 million plus individuals put into proceedings or released into the United States on your watch. I've asked multiple Border Patrol personnel, not the union, mind you, if we double, triple, quadruple the CBP budget, would that 1 million release go down? And they categorically said no, it would go up. Do you agree, yes or no?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Congressman. With the addition,
with the number of people being released in the United States under current law, would it go down no matter how much you increased your budget? And it would not. As they said, do you agree, yes or no?
Congressman, if I understand your question correctly, when individuals are in the United States and they make a claim for asylum,
so the number would not go down is the answer, right? Yes or no? That's what they said, and I think you just answered it. It would not go down. The only plan that you offer, the plan you just offered, is to process aliens faster and encourage more to come. We know that to be true. I know it's true. You know it's true. Cartels know it's true, and people around the world know it's true, and that's why people are coming.
That is false.
It's not false.
Yes, it is.
The entirety of your plan says that. The Secure Offense Act of 2006 says what? That the Secretary of Homeland Security shall take all actions the Secretary determines necessary to achieve and maintain operational control over the entire international land and maritime borders. Will you testify under oath right now? Do we have operational control, yes or no?
Yes, we do. And
we have operational control of the borders.
Yes, we do. And Congressman, we are working to...
What's operational control defined? In this section, the term operational control means the prevention of all unlawful entries into the United States, including entries by terrorists, other unlawful aliens, instruments of terrorism, narcotics, and other contraband. Do you stand by in your testimony that we have operational control in light of this definition?
And Congressman, I think the Secretary of Homeland Security would have said the same thing in 2020 and in 2019.
Well, the Secretary would have at least had a basis for saying that we have some sort of control of the border. But the fact is, we currently have people flowing across the border, including dangerous narcotics and dangerous members of terrorists, which your own agency sent a letter to my office after 8 months. We sent a letter saying there are 42 people on the terrorist watch list that are in the United States. But you just said to Mr. Jordan, you don't even know where the hell they are. That's what you're saying is operational control, including entries by terrorists and unlawful aliens? It's not. It's not operational control. Mr. Secretary, let me ask you a question. When we're looking ahead and we're talking about asylum, okay? Here, if the officer determines at the time of the interview that an alien has a credible fear of persecution, the alien shall be detained for further consideration. Mandatory detention. Any alien subject to the procedure under this clause shall be detained, pending a final determination of credible fear of persecution. Is everyone being detained? Yes or no?
No, and as a matter of fact, Congressman, that is an issue that is before the United States Supreme Court. And
the fact of the matter is our law says they should be detained, and your agency is releasing people on purpose in order to flood the zone and make sure that more people can come to the United States. And you use parole to do it. Parole of aliens within the following groups have been detained. Come down here on a case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. Yet your office is using parole. But when you use parole, the fact is they're not showing back up to ICE. Your own letter to Senator Johnson, to this committee, have acknowledged they're not showing back up to ICE. How can you be saying that you have operational control or that we're securing the United States when they're not showing back up?
Congressman, are you actually interested in the facts and the law?
Yeah, I'm reading you the law, and I'm actually talking to you about the facts about who's into this country.
Actually, you're
now let's actually go to something that's
Chairman, can the witness be allowed to answer the question?
Well, there wasn't a question there to be.
Gentleman's time.
Point. Now let's talk about the damage being done to the United States of America. Mr. Secretary, do you know what this is? This is a mobile morgue, a body trailer needed by counties in South Texas overwhelmed by dead migrants. That particular trailer is filled with these bodies, 27 bodies that were stored in this mobile morgue in South Texas with dead bodies of migrants. Dead bodies like this one found on a ranch just 3 weeks ago in South Texas. A dead migrant. Somehow that's compassion. How about the dead bodies found by migrants? Compassion. How about the ranchers who had to walk out of their door, and this is what they face. Gentlemen with rocks threatening a rancher in South Texas only able to be saved when they are able to bring their dogs out to scare the people away in order to save themselves. Or the fact that you've got houses being attacked, you've got livestock dead on the side because we've got ranches wide open. How about the little girl here with a brand on her arm? A little girl with a brand on her arm because of your policies. A little girl here in the desert found by ranchers trying to save their life. And how about the lost voices for people dying from fentanyl? The hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of Americans dying from fentanyl. Faces of Americans across this country dying because of fentanyl pouring into our country.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
You know full well.
Time of the gentleman has expired, Ms.
Encouraging people to come here, harming Texas and harming this country. You know it. And you're ignoring
the time of the gentleman has expired. He no longer has time to slander the secretary. Ms. Scanlon.
Not slander. You know what slander is?
Thank you, Secretary Mayorkas.
Ms. Scanlon. Ms. Scanlon.
Thank you, Secretary
There's no response to
Mayorkas.
any of it.
Over here. Thank you.
Jackie, for more on the crisis at our southern border, let's bring in former acting ICE director and Heritage visiting fellow, as well as Fox News contributor Tom Homan. Tom, you just heard Brian Yennis's report there down in Eagle Pass. That sector, they've had 1,190 crossings in the last 24 hours. They are up 158%, and it looks like Title 42 is on the way out. What do you make of the situation right now?
Well, look, it's only going to get worse, right? I spent the last 2 days getting angry at the TV set when the secretary is under oath, sitting in front of Congress saying the border's secure, the border's closed, and we're effectively managing this crisis. He lied under oath. The first sitting cabinet member that I know of that lied under oath to members of Congress. He lies every day to the American people. You can't say the border's closed and secure when you got over 700,000 gotaways. You can't say the border's secure when you got nearly 700 migrants have died on U.S. soil making this trip. You can't say the border's secure when there's enough fentanyl come across this border that's killed 112,000 people. You can't say the border's secure when the Mexican cartels are making billions. The Mexican cartels control our southern border, Griff. We no longer control it. And a chief patrol agent told me he has lost operational control of the border. They can't contain what's coming in right now, even with Title 42. If they lift Title 42, God help us.
Well, and the projections are you could have as many as 18,000 a day. You ran ICE. You ran one of the border enforcement agencies. What does that do? How does the Border Patrol, CBP, ICE, how do they deal with something like that?
Well, first of all, we got to understand, even with Title 42, they've arrested 42 people on the FBI screening database. That's what they arrested. Now, we know terrorists, they try to evade law enforcement. They're trained to do that. So if they've arrested 42 successfully, how many of the 700,000 are known as suspected terrorists? Border Patrol's arrested people from 161 countries. Many of those countries support terrorism. So if anybody thinks not a single one of the 700,000 came to this country to do us harm that got away, then they're ignorant. They're not looking at the facts. And look, the Title 42, they lifted, I just said the border was already overwhelmed just last month, 67,000 gotaways. Just in 1 month, 67,000 gotaways. We don't know who the hell they even are. So this immigration crisis, this humanitarian crisis, this public safety, public health crisis is turned into a national security crisis. And I'm angry with the secretary because if he had 1 ounce of integrity, he would call the White House saying, I no longer can support this open borders agenda because it's put this country at great risk of terrorist attacks. That is just a stone cold fact. So shame on him for continuing to support the open borders, and shame on him for lying under oath in front of Congress.
So, Tom, what should Congress do then? Do we hope that there is some bipartisan effort to stop Title 42 from lifting, to perhaps go after Secretary Mayorkas?
Well, look, even with Title 42, the secretary said, well, that's a CDC thing. I can't control that. But what he can control is the Remain in Mexico program. We sued him to put that back in place. I was a part of that lawsuit. I've written more affidavits for the state of Texas than I ever did as a special agent. So he's got to do the right thing for the American people and stand up and tell the White House no. But what Congress can do is do what they did the other day. Call this secretary out. Call him out. And hopefully we take the House and Senate back and impeach him. He needs to be impeached. He needs to be removed. He has failed. He has been in position for 15 months, almost 16. The president's been in position 16 months. The numbers keep climbing. They haven't done a single thing to slow the flow. Even now, we're lifting Title 42. They're going to spend almost $1 billion building soft-sided facilities to process and release quicker, which is just going to tell the cartels, bring more, because they're releasing it even quicker now. It's just everything they've done is it acts as a magnet, and not a single thing, not one enforcement strategy to secure that border.
Well, Tom, we are less than 30 days away from that date, May 23rd, of Title 42 lifting. Shall see what happens and what Congress does, if anything, between now and then. Tom Homan, thank you for joining us. Jackie?
Thanks for having me.
Border continues. Investigators right now say human smugglers are targeting teens on apps like TikTok and Instagram, offering them money to pick up migrants from Mexico. Fox's Mill Hayes has the story tonight from Brackettville, Texas. She's live with that. Mills.
I did a ride along with Texas state troopers. You can see some of them right here behind me. I'm actually in Eagle Pass, Texas, so right on the border. And they tell me that those migrants will cross over the Rio Grande into the U.S. They'll get to a state highway, and that's where sometimes teen drivers will pick them up and then transfer them over to a much larger Texas city like San Antonio, Houston, or Austin. There are over 100 million monthly active users on TikTok in the U.S., and human smugglers are cashing in on that.
These smuggling organizations are starting to use and recruit juveniles through social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, even using WhatsApp for those encrypted messages.
Christopher Olivieras with the Texas Department of Public Safety says teens are being targeted to drive migrants across Texas after leaving Mexico.
They're not coming out saying we need drivers for human smuggling or we need drivers for drug smuggling. I mean, they'll typically just say we need drivers want it, drivers need it, and they'll show videos of stacks of money.
Texas state troopers monitor cameras and drones looking for migrants or human smugglers on private ranches. This week, troopers arrested a 13-year-old who they say was helping smuggle migrants.
These are illegal immigrants that are traversing through these ranches, privately owned ranches, without the consent of the owner. We've encountered criminal gang members, MS-13, suspected cartel members.
The Department of Homeland Security arrested around 1,700 human smugglers in 2020 and over 2,300 in 2021. Police think it could be worse this year.
Right here, we see a lot of human smuggling.
Kenny County Sheriff Brad Coe says in April 2021, they caught 15 human smugglers. This year, more than double that.
With narcotics, they try to smuggle it in, it gets caught, they've lost it. But with the human trade, they can just keep, as long as we keep sending them back, they're going to keep trying to smuggle them over.
State troopers tell me that when they encounter migrants, they're able to charge them with criminal trespassing if they're on a Texas ranch. But Border Patrol, when they encounter migrants, they send them to a processing facility. They get sent back to Mexico. And then sometimes those very same migrants are coming back over into the U.S. the next day. And for many law enforcement officials, they tell me that can be frustrating. In Eagle Pass, Texas, Mills Hayes, Fox 26 News.
Mills, thanks. Well, Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush is now calling for the state to officially declare the situation at the border an invasion. Well, doing so could mean some major changes. Here's him discussing this very issue this morning on Fox News.
Under the Constitution, it's very clear under Article 4, Section 4, the U.S. national government is compelled to protect the individual states, and that under Article 1, Section 10, states like Texas can rise up and protect itself if the federal government won't do its job. And so that's why I'm declaring this an invasion perpetrated by bloody drug cartels and human traffickers, because Texans are calling for actions since the Biden administration won't do it.
The grandson of former President George H.W. Bush is running for Texas Attorney General, you might remember, saying if he is elected, securing the border will be his top priority. Today, President Biden spoke with Mexico's president virtually for about an hour. The topic of discussion, of course, illegal crossings. The White House said it was a constructive conversation, but did not give any further details about the conversation.
Migrants crossing in the first year of the Biden administration. Mark Morgan, the former head, the commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, telling me, Ben, that 1.6 million of those 2 million border crossers were released into the United States and distributed by generally aircraft going into cities around the country and taking those illegal immigrants to their point of destination. And after that, no one knows. It's just a remarkable. What is the Border Patrol there? The Yuma sector is one of the busiest sectors on all along that border. What are they telling you about what they're expecting right now?
You talk to them, and the look in their eyes is just one of desperation. These guys are already, guys and gals are already so overwhelmed. The morale is as low as it's ever been. You're seeing attrition rates as high as they've ever been. You're seeing suicide. It is awful to go down there to speak to these guys. They basically become glorified paper workers and Ubers for the cartels. That's what the Border Patrol has basically become. We are seeing the largest human smuggling operation in world history, and it's being orchestrated by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Washington, D.C. and Border Patrol. They're already at their wits' end. With what's coming, I can't even tell you what's going to happen. It's terrifying to think what our American sovereignty is going to look like and what Border Patrol is going to look like with 1 more year, 2 more years, potentially 3 more years of this. 2 million you mentioned last year. They're estimating that could be as high as 7 million this year. It's the destruction of our country. I mean, it's really national suicide.
News at 5, I'm Aran Hammy. Here in Refugio, County Sheriff Pinky Gonzalez says you're going to start seeing a lot more human smuggling cases get prosecuted. And that was evident on Thursday with over 30 cases coming before a judge.
We need to do something to deter these people from coming across.
Sheriff Pinky Gonzalez says human smuggling cases are on the rise. He says there was no real deterrent from people caught smuggling undocumented immigrants. They would go to Border Patrol, be processed and deported, but might try again later.
Driving vehicles that were stolen, speeding, driving through town at high rate of speeds, going through people's properties, knocking down fences, knocking down gates. So we decided to start filing on these people.
Carol Anderson works along Highway 77 and says she's witnessed many law enforcement interactions with undocumented immigrants.
I've seen lots of people get stopped. I've seen people bail out. We've had wrecks directly right here. Same reason. You know, people getting stopped and other people aren't paying attention and boom.
She says it's so common, she's worried how it will affect the younger generations as they grow up.
It's scary when they bail out. Again, because, I mean, luckily we have a sheriff's department on our Facebook page, and they post when there's a bailout. You know, it's a small town, so we have people, friends with scanners. You know, they'll call us, hey, be careful, there's a bailout.
Gonzalez says many undocumented immigrants will face victimization by the people who smuggle them into the country. It's reflected in the charges several people are facing. Gonzalez detailed what 2 undocumented immigrants told him while in jail.
He said, all we want to do is go back home. We want to go to El Salvador. He said, we have relatives that could probably send us money. He said, but they'll probably take us back to Mexico. He said, and we know they're going to take our money in Mexico. We're not going to be able to fly back home.
Anderson thinks business owners would feel safer if a bypass was built, but she understands businesses could be hurt if they're not getting that traffic coming through 77. Reporting in Refugio, Aran Hammy, Action 10 News.
Aloy authorities are now identifying 3 people who died when the Toyota RAV4 they were in crossed a median and collided with a tractor trailer. The accident shut down I-10 for hours. The 3 deceased victims, a 22-year-old woman, a 36-year-old man, and a 39-year-old man. They are all believed to be Mexican nationals. Another passenger in the SUV is still hospitalized. Everyone else, including the 4 other passengers inside that SUV, have been released from the hospital. 18-year-old Kevin Avila, though, was booked in the Pinal County Jail on multiple counts, including first-degree murder, as investigators look into the possibility this was a human smuggling operation.
After that public health provision expires, will directly impact border agents and law enforcement working on the southern border. Let's go to Robert Sherman, who is there live now. So, Robert, you spoke with law enforcement officers who say they are overwhelmed processing so many migrants, and they do expect that number to only go up.
They do, and with no end in sight for that, Nicole. And what we've seen down here at the border supports that. Right here at the river where we're standing, we've seen one crossing right after another. Emerging out of the Rio Grande River came 2 men, both from Venezuela, but determined to get to Texas. For them, it's been a long, grueling journey.
We were traveling via bus and cars until we got tricked and detained for 40 days, and our money was stolen.
It didn't take long for the Texas National Guard to catch them. But as these 2 get caught, across the way, 4 more look to take their place. This is the everyday situation down on the border. The month of March saw over 220,000 migrant encounters, the most in about 2 decades. Even so, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says everything is under control.
We have effectively managed an unprecedented number of non-citizens seeking to enter the United States.
Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council, however, says that's not the case.
We are leaving large stretches of the border completely unpatrolled. That's not handling the border properly.
Judd says his fellow agents are overwhelmed, in many cases forced to spend their whole days processing migrants and not patrolling the nearly 2,000 miles of border, creating gaps. And if Title 42 goes away, he believes the surge will make things much worse. At the local level, Sheriff Tom Schmerber of Maverick County is also waiting anxiously to see what happens, as migrant encounters in the Del Rio sector are up 184% this fiscal year.
And get rid of Title 42, but not right now, maybe when we have a solution or control. Right now, there's a lot of immigrants on the other side from other countries in Mexico, close to the border, just waiting to come in, to open the gates.
Sheriff Schmerber would like to see the Mexican government do more to curb illegal crossings on their side of the border. Meanwhile, Judd believes the key is deterrence.
You must either hold people in custody pending an asylum or deportation proceeding, and you must get rid of the catch and release magnet that draws so many people across here. Once that is done, illegal immigration will drop to astronomical lows.
So a few weeks ago, we saw that standoff between the state of Texas and Mexico, which led to trucking blockades. One of the results of that was commitments from Mexican governors that they would start patrolling their side of the border a bit more. We actually have seen a few armored vehicles rolling around here today, but Border Patrol tells us that this is really the only area where they're seeing it. There's still a lot more to go on that end. Nicole?
Yeah, certainly a lot more to go. All right, Robert.
Border crossings are increasing. ABC7 learned the Border Patrol El Paso sector has seen a 57% increase in migrants caught trying to enter into the U.S. compared to last year. ABC7's Brianna Perez spoke to a Border Patrol official about the situation. She reports live from the border barrier. Brianna.
Borders are seeing an increase of migrants, and with Title 42 expected to come to an end soon, a Border Patrol official I spoke with tells me that they are prepared for any challenges.
Well, it's been a historic year, and we're only 6 months in.
Border Patrol Public Affairs spokesperson for the El Paso sector, Carlos Rivera, says El Paso is seeing a 57% increase in apprehensions compared to last year. That's about 113,000 encounters.
What we're seeing here in the El Paso sector along the border is about 70% of total encounters are migrants trying to evade arrest, evade detection, flee from agents, and further into the United States.
An ABC7 source sent us these photos from Wednesday night. They show 25 migrants being apprehended underneath the Santa Fe Bridge. Our very own Saul Saenz also captured video this week that shows more migrants with Border Patrol in the lower valley. Rivera says the trend of migrants are coming in from Santa Teresa and Salem Park area.
And I can tell you it is busy for our agents, for our partners at other agencies. Again, it is very busy for the El Paso sector right now.
To navigate the surge, he says more agents are moved to those areas where they are needed.
And if the necessity presents itself, yes, we'll be reaching out to other sectors and other stakeholders for that assistance.
Out of those in the 57% increase that we've been seeing, nationalities vary.
The top 5 are going to be Mexican, Guatemalan, Cuban, Nicaraguan, and Haitian citizens.
With the centralized processing center and resources like medical personnel, as well as caretakers for children, Rivera says they are prepared for any challenges, including the end of Title 42.
Definitely much better prepared now to face any challenge than we were before.
And Title 42 is still expected to end on May 23rd. For now, reporting in front of the border wall, Brianna Perez, ABC7.
A federal judge has ordered the Biden administration to stop making plans to wind down Title 42 at the southern border. But they are still planning it for May 23rd. The administration so far seems to be moving forward to revoke this policy in 3 weeks, despite new and troubling numbers from the border. Border agents tell me that they expect apprehensions to jump from 7,000 a day to 18,000 apprehensions a day once Title 42 goes away. And that does not include all the gotaways. My next guest has been seeing equally disturbing trends in neighboring Arizona. as we are told many so-called gotaways, those migrants who intentionally do not want to be apprehended, but are seen coming into the country through surveillance cameras, they are ending up in Tucson, among other places. Joining me right now is Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake. And Kari, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Assess the border from your eyes in Arizona. What's going on?
It's in complete chaos. I was just down in Yuma last week, and every time I go there, I think, oh, surely the Biden administration will have had enough by now, and they will stop what's happening, because they can do it very quickly by basically bringing back President Trump's policy. But I was shocked at what I saw. It was so much worse than even the time that I was there before. People pouring in from the minute we arrived until the minute we left, and it's strewn with clothing. I picked up this little kid's baby shoe. Basically, this looks like it belongs to maybe a 3-year-old. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's a national security crisis. And the drugs and the people are pouring across. And when they come across, Maria, they've got smiles on their face, because they know under Joe Biden, they're probably going to be granted asylum, a mass asylum to everybody who comes across. It's outrageous.
What is the point of all of this? I mean, look at the numbers in terms of fentanyl. We had 100,000 overdose deaths, largely due to fentanyl, in the last year. And the CPB has seized incredible numbers, 913,000 pounds of fentanyl. Fiscal year to date, 340,000. What can you tell us about this? And what are you going to do about it should you become governor of Arizona?
Well, we need to shut the border down and shut it down to illegal crossings and the cartels. Right now, because of Joe Biden's failures, the cartels have operational control over Arizona's border and Texas and others as well. And so we need to shut it down. I have the most bold and aggressive border policy that this country's ever seen. And on day one, we are going to issue a declaration of invasion. We are going to finish President Trump's wall on both state and federal land using the materials and resources that we have at the border. And we're going to arm our National Guard and prevent people from coming across the border. Right now, they just walk right into the arms of the Border Patrol agents. They've got drones, about 9,000 drones that have come over, dropped off drugs. They're surveilling our law enforcement. We should be shooting those down, and under my plan, we will.
In Ukraine, since mid-March, Homeland Security has processed more than 20,000 Ukrainians at the U.S.-Mexico border, granting them humanitarian parole on a case-by-case basis. With Title 42 ending soon, the Biden administration is preparing for an influx of more migrants on the southern border. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas laying out the administration's plan to deal with the increase. ABC 15 political reporter Mark Phillips says while there are signs of support, questions remain about whether the administration is doing enough.
Along the border near Yuma, as many as 10,000 immigrants cross into the United States every week. Nearly all of them get sent back. Across the length of the southwest border, the U.S. Border Patrol encountered more than 221,000 migrants in March alone.
We inherited a broken and dismantled system that is already under strain. It is not built to manage the current levels and types of migratory flows.
U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, appearing before a House Appropriations Subcommittee, outlined a 6-point plan to deal with the expected rush of immigrants once Title 42 is lifted. The plan includes a surge of personnel and resources to the border and the promise to strictly enforce U.S. immigration law.
Individuals who cross the border without legal authorization are processed for removal and, if unable to establish a legal basis to remain in the United States, promptly removed from the country.
Arizona Congressman Tom O'Halloran says he needs to know more. This was O'Halloran recently on Fox News.
The president has to have a plan. We don't want chaos at the border.
Arizona Director of Homeland Security Tim Romer, who worked in the Obama administration, says the plan is short on detail and lacks any sense of urgency. Romer says Arizona was never consulted by Homeland Security. Mark Phillips, ABC 15, Arizona.
On Monday, a federal judge in Louisiana said he plans to issue a temporary restraining order blocking the end of Title 42. A hearing on May 13th will determine how long that pause will be. Democratic Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, meanwhile, says ending Title 42 by the original date of May 23rd is unrealistic. She wants the administration's plan to include more support for local border communities, law enforcement, and nonprofits.
Let's talk about the border crisis. You are particularly incensed at what's going on regarding the fentanyl that's flooding across the southern border. Talk about that for a moment.
Well, look, Kansas is no longer a border state. This problem, this crisis has been brought to Kansas. Just this past week, I learned of a boy that I delivered. I'm an obstetrician and delivered him 15 years ago. Died probably from Percocet laced with fentanyl. Two young students, boys from Kansas City area died. 2,500 Kansans overdosed in the past 3 months. Over 6 tons of fentanyl have been apprehended at the border since President Biden took office. It's truly a crisis, and the sad thing is it looks like this administration wants this crisis.
And 6 tons apprehended.
Yes,
we
sir.
have no idea how much has gotten through.
That's right. So talking to the Border Patrol there, I've been there 3 times now, looking forward to a 4th trip on May 23rd because that's when Title 42 ends. But the Border Patrol tells me for every ounce they catch, maybe 2 or 3 more ounces get through undetected.
Let's look at some of the numbers from the Del Rio sector. That's one of the busiest sector for border crossings along the southern border. In 2021, 68,000 and change came across there. 2022, 195,289. And again, those are the apprehensions. That doesn't count the number that, gotaways. That's 185% increase in numbers, Senator.
Yeah, John, I want to bring this home to Kansas. Kansas, a population of 3 million people, at least 3 million people have been apprehended since Joe Biden was sworn in. And again, to your point, probably 2 to 3 times more than that have been leaked through. And then finally, as we get through May 23rd, if Title 42 is taken away from us, those numbers will double again.
But, the Homeland Security Secretary says, hey, if we find these people, if we catch them, and they're not entitled to stay in our country, they're going back. How do you answer that?
Well, I just don't see that happening. They haven't been able to handle this number of people, and those numbers are going to double and triple. And again, just think about what the cartel is doing. They're using these human shields to smuggle in narcotics, and then they throw a kid out the boat when they're about to get busted, and then they make the escape. So there's no way that we have the ability to handle 2 to 3 times the amount of crossings we have right now. They're thinking about making our veterans hospitals shortchanged by taking doctors and nurses from there and sending them to the border. We already have a problem with the waiting times already with the VA hospitals.
Yeah, Secretary Mayorkas was on the morning shows this morning, and one of the things he said is, hey, we're getting the message out, do not come to our border. How are they getting that message out, Senator?
Well, certainly that's not the message people are hearing across the world. I think President Biden has been loud and clear saying, come, bring us everybody. We're here for you. And when you get here, you're going to get free health care, free food and water. So they're treated better than our veterans are. They're treated better than our soldiers are. So here's Mayorkas today. But for over a year now, this president has been saying, come, everybody. You're welcome. The gates are wide open.
When it's removed, you're going to see more numbers, right?
We very well could, and we estimate that we will, which is precisely why, Brett, we've been planning since September of 2021 for the eventual end of Title 42.
May 23rd. Secretary Mayorkas a moment ago on the administration plans to deal with that surge if Title 42 is lifted at the border. It's time now for our Sunday group. Mara Eliason from NPR, former Democratic Congressman Harold Ford Jr., Mark Short, who served as Vice President Mike Pence's chief of staff, and Olivia Beavers of Politico. Mara, what did you think of that interview and his kind of presentation of them?
Well, I thought he was not defensive. I think he acknowledged that there are big problems and there's a surge coming. And he also didn't seem to deny the take that you'd gotten from the private meeting, meaning that we can't just control it at the border. It's a much, much bigger problem. But what exactly they're going to do about Title 42 is still unclear because so far they're being saved by a federal judge who has told them not to pull it off.
Mark, these numbers are really high, and effective management. I was trying to get to the difference between the public and the private. You can't look at those numbers and say that's a good thing.
No, Brett, you're exactly right. And you're exactly right to push them on the numbers of 840,000 that have already been let go since they became into this administration. That doesn't include all the unaccompanied minors. So essentially, 1 million illegal aliens that have been let go in the United States. They're confessing the problem is only going to get worse, Brett, and there's so much focus on Title 42, but it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. It's been a series of policy decisions to change Remain in Mexico policy, to tie the hands of ICE. At this point, you're actually deporting about 1/8 of the criminals that the Trump administration was deporting during our 4 years. And so they're actually not removing criminals, and they're confessing to here on TV that they have a surge that's coming, and they have no policy to deter it whatsoever.
Olivia, Democrats say Republicans are just trying to use all of this for the election. It is very powerful and emotional, and we saw that testimony and the questioning. But some of it, was really aggressive. And does that hurt Republicans in some way?
No, actually, I think border is a huge issue going into the election. Biden's numbers are down in the polls over how he's handling immigration. And you're even seeing moderate Democrats coming forward saying that if you revoke Title 42, there needs to be a better plan in place than what they had heard from a 20-page memo that DHS put out. So if Democrats are saying we want a better plan in place, we want specifics, it's not just Republicans who are saying the border is a problem. You have Democrats joining as well, because they recognize that in purple states, this might be a huge issue.